I'm not quite sure where CG is kind of landing at with this whole datacron lark lately, because they've gone up and down with both the requirements to actually equip these datacrons from going relic 135 to 246 to 5 to 6 without relics. It's weird, right? And then we didn't get a set of focused datacrons for this last datacron release, except we've had the new set. It's called Armor and Instinct datacron set, and these are going to have some focused datacrons, presumably once this era ends. So going into next week should be next Tuesday. I will see you next Tuesday, datacrons. And this set has not got 1, not got 2, nor 3, nor 4, nor 5, nor 6. It's got 7 focused datacrons. 7 of them. 7. 7. 6, 7. Damn it. All right. So, yeah, I just thought we should have a chat about it. It's a little bit weird. If you want to be able to go ahead and look at these datacrons, ladies and gentlemen of the tribe, you're going to have to go over to swigger.gg. I'll try and leave a link in the description down below. Comment something like FDC, which stands for Fudge D's Crons, baby. Not Focused Datacrons. Yeah, it's going to be a link in there. Let me know if you've had a look. There are some absurd levels of power here. One of the things that's a little bit disappointing about this new set of focused datacrons is that it's just the 7 marquees, guys. It's the new marquees. So you've got one for Asajj Ventress, one for IG-90, one for new Barriss, one for new Maul, one for new Luke, one for new Vader, one for Yoda and Chewie, right? Where's my Wampa datacron? Do you know what I mean? Where's the like old trashy character that gets a really funky FDC gone? I know historically, before we went into this era system setup, before we were in this 3-month cycle of units locked behind segmented areas of our roster, we used to have one focused datacron that would be for something new. Like we had the Darkside Vision Ray focused datacron, which was mind-numbingly painful. Right? That was pretty horrendous. And then we had the Kix datacron, for example, and that was mind-numbingly underwhelming. You know, there's been some hits and there's been some misses with these focused datacrons. I'm sure you will agree. But the other 3 that we used to get would usually be for less used characters, or maybe they would give you fun flavor, and they'd often have really powerful stats. So instead, it looks like we're losing focused datacrons, but now we are going for it's only the new marquees that are getting them. Now, don't get me wrong, there are actually other units within these focused datacrons that are older units, so if you don't have the new units invested in it, doesn't mean that you can't get value from these focused datacrons. But they're also sticking around for 3 months, if this data mine is correct, which I assume it is, because if you tried to invest in 7 datacrons and they only lasted for a month, you're not going to be able to invest in anything else in terms of datacron acquisition. You'll have to completely forget any of the datacron, and even then, I don't know how feasible it is to get this much from one round of conquest. So anyway, let's have a look through. Let's have a gauge and see what it looks like per datacron. First one we've got over here is the Asajj Ventress datacron. Stat-wise, we've got defense and offense, which is really good. More defense. So we've already got, what, 65% defense, 30% offense, 40% potency, and then we've got an extra 50% defense and 50% offense. So what was that, 80% offense, and what was it, 65% defense plus an extra 115% defense. So like the stats already are really good. High levels of offense, decent amount of defense, and a bit of potency, was it, thrown in to boot. Now we've also got the actual character abilities. So first one is for Fennec. Whenever a bounty hunter ally attacks out a turn, she's going to gain tenacity up for 1 turn. Now, tenacity up increases, I think it's her offense. Is it her offense? It's been a while since I've paid any attention to Fennec. My girl with the stripy socks. Let's go ahead and check her out. Fennec, Shand, Relic 7. I want to say it's in here. Whenever she gains tenacity up, she gains 10% stacking offense until the end of the encounter. Increased to 20% if Bam is in the team. If Boba Fett is in the leader slot, this bonus is doubled, and she starts with the Bounty Hunter's Resolve. Yeah, so basically, if Boba Fett, Son of Django, is in there, she's going to gain 20% offense, essentially, stacking indefinitely, right? Every time somebody attacks out of turn, which will happen very frequently. Whenever Fennec Shand damages an enemy with Armor Shred, she deals bonus true damage equal to 3% of their max health to the target enemy. She recovers 5% protection and dispels all buffs from all enemies. That's in and of itself, that's very powerful. That's very powerful. This true damage looks like, is it equal to her own max health? Yeah, I think it is. Equal to 3% of their max health. No, it's the target's max health. I mean, that's a small amount of damage. Of course, you're going to get armor shreds from characters such as Asajj Ventress. She's able to throw down armor shreds in this team, so you will be able to do that, but even just the attacks out of turn, giving tenacity up, that's going to ramp her offense really, really quickly, right? Next character that gets a bonus is Forlom, of course, one of the newer marquees, was used for an era battle, the Analysis Paralysis era battle, so hopefully people have got some level of investment. At the start of each encounter, inflict all enemies with a stack of Corrupted Translation for 2 turns. That's his, like, big debuff, kind of important for his contract and his abilities. If the enemy is defeated while they have 3 stacks of Corrupted Translation, they can't be revived and reset the cooldown of all Bounty Hunter allies. That's really cool. Really powerful. Quite easy to get to 3 stacks of Corrupted Translation, especially once he has got his contract signed. Whenever Forlom uses Relative Mercy, each assisting ally deals 10% more damage for each stack of Corrupted Translation on the target enemy. So you can do up to 30% more damage. That's really powerful. Whenever Corrupted Translation expires on an enemy, inflict 2 stacks of damage over time on the target enemy for 2 turns, and all Bounty Hunter allies gain 20% turn meter. So a little bit of turn meter generation, some additional dots, which are debuffs, which are nice. It's a decent level 6, I guess. And then finally, we have the level 9, and the level 9 is applying to, of course, the brand new character, Asajj Ventress Dark Disciple. Whenever Asajj Ventress critically hits an enemy, she gains 10% crit damage, defense, and offense, stacking to a maximum of 200% until the end of battle. She's going to be critting a lot. This is decent, but not like mind-blowingly powerful. I feel like as a complete unit, it will be great in 5v5, be a really strong datacron to be using under Boba Fett with Forlom, Zuckuss, Fennec, and of course Asajj Ventress herself. So this one is decent, but I don't think it's necessarily a must-have unless you have the team geared up. If you've got Fennec and you want to try and just do like an old Fennec BAM setup, it's probably not terrible, truth be told, but probably not going to get super wide use. IG-90 then. IG-90's Cron has got potency. Now don't forget, he is going to be running in a Afra lead, so potency is great there. Crit damage, 20% crit damage. We've got 30% offense and 40% crit damage. That's a lot of crit damage coming in. 60% potency, 50% offense. So we've got 80% offense. We have got 80% potency, and we've got 60% crit damage, I want to say, there or thereabouts. I could be wrong on those numbers. 000 then. While BT1 is active, 000 is immune to daze and stun. Whenever 000 targets or damages a target locked enemy, he gains protection up 20%, stacking for 2 turns, 25% turn meter, and inflicts protection disruption for 1 turn. Protection disruption is really good as well. Gets rid of the protection straight away, so that's really cool. Can't be resisted. Target lock is actually going to get spread, I believe, by BT1 as well. BT1, percentile health damage enemies received is increased by 100%. So dots, burning, exposes, all of these things are going to be doubled in their damage output. Whilst 000 is active, BT1 is immune to ability blocks and stuns. Whenever BT1 damages a target locked enemy, he gains protection up 20%, stacking for 2 turns, 15% turn meter, and resets 000's cooldowns, so more torture as well. Don't forget, torture does, I think it's 10% max health damage whenever you target them. That max health damage is going to get doubled to 20% thanks to this. So really good. And then finally, we've got IG-90. Whenever IG-90 is dealt damage, reflect 50% of that damage back onto the weakest enemy as true damage, which cannot be evaded, and it inflicts target lock for 2 turns, which can't be resisted. This damage cannot defeat enemies. So he's going to be a pseudo tank for the Afra team once that that hacked commando droid gets summoned into the field. I believe IG-90 has the chance to taunt at that point. So if ever he gets hurt, target lock is going to happen. 50% damage gets reflected, which is quite nice. Yeah, you deal some true damage. So that's pretty good. Whenever IG-90 attacks an enemy with target lock, the healthiest enemy is inflicted with 2 stacks of damage over time for 2 turns. And he counterattacks. Don't forget. He counterattacks all the time. So there's going to be target lock getting spread. He's going to be supported by BT1 and 000 going through the roof. I think this is going to make Aphra really comfortably beat teams like Jabba. I've heard it can even beat Lord Vader, but we'll find out soon enough. Inquisitor Barriss then. What are we looking at for stats? We've got 40% tenacity, 30% defense, 70% armor penetration, and 50% crit damage. The stats on these are pretty good. 50% defense, 45% tenacity. All right, okay, so we've got some pretty good, we've got like 80% defense, we've got some good amounts of tenacity, decent amounts of armor penetration, and crit damage. So good stats once again. The level 3 over here is for 9th Sister, and we've had this alone in the past as a level 9. This 9th Sistercron, in and of itself, is already busted, alright? At the start of the encounter, Inquisitorious allies have 200% max health and are immune to ability block. So you've tripled their health right out the gate. 9th Sisters deal 9th Sister deals 20% bonus true damage based on her max health with her basic ability if the target is inflicted with Purge. She's a tank, she's got high max health, and we've just tripled it. If she's dealing 20%, you can do some serious damage, like easily over 100,000 damage to the target enemy with a basic. It's really cool. If an enemy has 6 stacks of Purge when 9th Sister is defeated for the first time, she consumes those stacks and she gets a full health, full protection revive, and strips 50% turn meter from the enemy. It's just really powerful. It's a really, really good level 3. Then we go to 2nd Sister. Even if you don't have Inquisitor Barriss, it's worth getting that 9th Sistercron. It's worth getting it just for that 9th Sister, and throw it on your Reaver team. Honestly, it is that powerful. 2nd Sister. Whenever an enemy is inflicted with Purge, 2nd Sister gains 5% offense and 5% health steal up to 120% and 10 speed up to 200 for the rest of the encounter. Whenever she defeats an enemy with Purge, she fully heals, and 9th Sister gets Retaliate for 2 turns. Don't forget, when she basics, she's doing 20% of her max health as damage if they have Purge. So this is a really good synergistic setup with 9th Sister. The damage output is going to get really nutty. Then finally, we've got Inquisitor Barriss. At the start of each encounter, if 9th Sister and 2nd Sister are allies, whenever Purge is dispelled or expires on the enemy, all Inquisitor allies are going to gain 5% turn meter, and that enemy takes true damage equal to 5% of their max health, which can't defeat them, but that's still really, really good damage. Obviously, this is very dependent on having this particular setup for 3v3, for example. Okay. Next up, she also has, while an Inquisitorious ally has Taunt, 9th Sister, when an enemy targets an ally without Taunt, inflict Fear on them for 2 turns, and all enemies take true damage equal to 25% of their max health. Yeah. So if you try and ignore the Taunt on 9th Sister, you're going to take significant amounts of damage based on your max health. It's going to be a really decent team. I feel a really decent team. All right, next one. This is where we get absolutely off-the-chain bonkers, ladies and gentlemen. The Maul Hate-Fueled datacron. Now, don't forget, you can use this at Gear 5. So if you've got a 5-star Maul Hate-Fueled, you can still use this datacron to its full extent. These stats, then. Let's start off with the stats. We've got some tenacity and health, 40% health and 20% tenacity. So 50% tenacity, 40% health, 30% crit damage. What have we got? Oh, crit avoidance, sorry. Extra crit damage, extra offense. Even more crit damage, even more armor penetration, tenacity, and crit avoidance. So you're not going to be able to crit these guys. They're going to be really tanky. They've got decent amounts of health. They've got good tenacity. They've got, good crit damage and offense coming in. The stats already are kind of bonkers. First of all, Visas Mar. Now, typically, we don't usually use Visas Mar. She's not really that ideal. In a 5v5 setup, it's not as good as having, like, Barriss with Cal. However, things are changing and we'll see why. Whenever Visas Mar revives an ally, she resets the cooldown of all other allies. Deathmark the weakest enemy for 2 turns, which can't be resisted, and if Maul is an active ally, he takes a bonus turn. So yeah. If you revive an ally, you're going to deathmark the weakest enemy for 2 turns, which they can't stop, and then your Maul is taking a bonus turn. And if he hits someone with deathmark, he's going to kill them, because he hits multiple times. Right? He hits multiple times on almost all of his attacks. So it's he's most likely going to kill them and recycle his turns. However, obviously this is dependent on you getting a revive in the first place. Let's keep reading though. This is where it gets interesting. Barriss Offee. Revives from allies cannot be prevented. So that means if one of your units gets insta-killed by Cat, gets, well actually that you can revive them. Anyway, gets disintegrated by Bam, gets annihilated by Nihilus, gets, what else? Someone's got weapons tech, places the weapons tech and yeets out a unit or something like that, right? You can always revive your units. Always. That changes things quite drastically. If they try to like Seer Malicos it, you'll still be able to get the revived. Okay? Whenever an enemy is inflicted with either Daze, Shock, or Vulnerable, all allies recover 10% health and protection, and the weakest ally gains perfect defense for 2 turns, which gives you like 30% damage reduction or something like that. Can't remember what perfect defense does. But already, Barriss meaning your revives can't be prevented is really nice. And, you know, the whole Daze, Shock, and Vulnerable just giving you health and protection recovery. This helps in TW more than anything, I'll be honest, because you can't get Shock, for example. Oh, no, you can. You can't get Daze, apologies, if you've got Starkiller in your team. Let's keep reading, though, because we've got more. Starkiller. Whenever an ally uses an ability on their turn, Starkiller assists, dealing 10% more damage. Now, Starkiller in GAC already assists when Sith allies, the Stranger, does an ability. He's going to assist twice, I think. I know it says limited once per turn, but that just means for once per one of his turns. He should do 2 assists based on his own unique in GAC and then for this datacron, which means he's going to hit his Unleashed incredibly quickly. And of course, just having Starkiller assist is already boatloads of damage. Okay, then we've got a bonus for the Stranger. So even if you don't have Maul, you're going to potentially have Stranger, and we're getting benefits for Stranger and Starkiller and Visas and Barriss. So already it's a powerful datacron if you don't have Maul Hate-Fueled. Whenever the Stranger is healed by an ally or attacks out of turn, which he does very frequently, he's going to gain 5 speed, stacking to a maximum of 100. This is going to help him outpace enemies so that his basic will get that insta-kill, right? Whenever Stranger uses his basic and damages a stunned or shocked enemy, reduce the cooldown of Was That Its Name by 1, and he is immune to Daze. So the immunity to Daze is really about TW. Right, that's about TW, because you don't have that Daze immunity from Starkiller anymore. At least I believe. I believe that's a GAC on me. So this is just great, just in general, really great. And then finally, we've got Maul's level 15. Whenever an enemy takes damage from bleed, which will happen quite frequently, Maul gains 2 stacks of Edge of Madness and 5% turn meter. If Maul has 50 or more stacks of Edge of Madness, which he can get quite quickly, whenever he uses a basic ability, he inflicts an ability block on the enemy for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. Whenever he gains a stack of Edge of Madness, he also ramps his max health by 1% until the end of battle. At 100 stacks of Edge of Madness, Maul's basic attack inflicts buff immunity for 1 turn. So he's going to be ability blocking and buff immunity, which is okay. The ramping of the max health, making him more survivable, is nice, and the fact that he's going to be gaining lots of turn meter is good. Most of the power is on everything but Maul, okay? So it's going to be a ridiculously powerful focus datacron. Even if you don't have Maul, I'd recommend people go for that. Next up, we got Stormtrooper Luke. Stormtrooper Luke, the stats are on armor penetration and defense, offense, defense again, defense, and armor penetration. So this one's got a hefty amount of defense. What have we got? 85% there. 115, I want to say 115% defense. A decent amount of offense. And some armor penetration. That's pretty good stat spread. Pretty good stat spread, guys. The level 3 is on Stormtrooper Hand. Whenever Hand deals damage to an enemy, remove 25% turn meter. I mean, that's okay. It can be resisted. I'm not too fussed by that. Princess Leia, whenever she gains stealth, she's going to recover 25% protection. That's quite nice for survivability, but I'm pretty sure she's very squishy. And then finally, Luke himself. At the start of each encounter, Princess Leia gains offense up for 2 turns and Han gains defense up for 2 turns. Whenever an enemy is distracted, which I think Luke does on his basic, Princess Leia resets her cooldowns and gains a bonus turn once per turn. If an enemy is defeated whilst distracted, all allies recover 50% health and protection, attacker allies gain 25% offense, and tank allies gain 25% max health. So I think the big thing here is the distract, resetting Leia's cooldowns and giving her a bonus turn is kind of nice, right? So every time that you do any sort of basic with Luke, He's going to try to inflict distract. If that happens, bonus turn, cooldown reset, she stealths, she goes ahead, she triple taps. Hopefully she triple taps. Does a good amount of damage, and then you ramp your max health and your offense. So, and you recover health and protection. I feel like this is going to be okay, but I'm still just not that enthused about this team in general. I don't know. Maybe my opinion will change after I see it live. So, Vader Duel's End. Here's another big one for us. 35% health and defense. Extra health, so we've got 75% health, and we've got 85% defense. Then we've got 40% tenacity, 15% crit avoidance. Even more crit avoidance, 35% crit avoidance, and we've got some armor penetration, even more crit avoidance, and even more armor penetration. So the stat spread on this is very good. Very good stat spread on the Vadercron. Royal Guard, at the start of his turns, dispel all debuffs on him, recover 5% health and protection for each debuff dispelled this way. This to me is not that entertaining. I'll be honest, I'm still doubtful that Royal Guard is the best use here. I don't think he is. I think Thrawn is probably better. Grand Moff Tarkin. Whenever Tarkin damages the enemy, shock them for 2 turns, which can't be evaded or resisted. Now, that's okay, right? But the main benefit there is under a Palp's lead, which it should be under Palp's leadership, that's going to be more TM generation for some of the team, especially when Palps uses his basic, more enemies that have shock, more TM generation. And shock is just generally speaking a good debuff to have. Palpatine. Whenever an enemy is defeated by Palpatine, they can't be revived. That's nice, but Palps very rarely gets the actual kill. Mara Jade, this is where we get a little bit crazy. At the start of each other ally's turn, Mara Jade gains an additional stack of Loyal Hand until the end of the encounter. Whenever an ally with less than 100% turn meter gains bonus turn meter, they stack 2% crit chance and crit damage up to 100% until the end of the encounter. Whenever an enemy is inflicted with shock, think back to Tarkin's basic, they take damage equal to 5% of their max health, which can't defeat enemies. So lots of shock, lots of max health damage, which is really, really nice, truth be told. And then you ramp your crit chance and crit damage as well. And then finally, we've got Darth Vader Duel's End. Whenever an enemy attacks out of turn, Vader takes a bonus turn, once per turn. That's really nice. So many teams attack out of turn, Vader's just going to keep on interrupting that. Vader Duel's End cannot be defeated if Palpatine is active. Okay, so yeah, that kind of makes sense. And at the start of his turn, if Darth Vader has less than 25% health, he gains 10% defense, penetration, health steal, and offense for each active ally until the end of his turn. So it stacks quite a big amount of stats there, which is nice. It's a shame it's not like permanently, but the extra health steal will help him heal up and stuff like that. So this one is pretty powerful overall. I'm still not sold on the Royal Guard. I do think that there are other better uses there, but we will once again find out when we're there. Finally, probably the one I'm least interested in is the Choda. So we've got 30% health, 20% crit avoidance, extra health again. We've got 65% health. That is a big health stack, and 65% defense, 50% crit avoidance, and 40% health. Okay, so we have got over 100% health. We've got 105% health, a good amount of crit avoidance, a good amount of defense. It's worth it for the stats alone. The level 3 is on Tarful. Whenever another ally attacks during Tarful's turn, Tarful and that ally gain stacking accuracy. I don't know why accuracy is important for this team, but whatever. Next up, we've got Clone Wars Chewie. While Clone Wars Chewie has Taunt, all Wookiee allies deal true damage. Now, I don't know what this means exactly. Is it additional true damage, or does all their damage turn into true damage? How much true damage? Don't know. Whilst Clone War Chewbacca has defense up, all Wookiee allies have 100% counter chance. That is really nice. Whenever Clone Wars Chewbacca loses Taunt, he gains protection up 15%, stacking for 2 turns, and reduces the cooldowns of all Wookiee allies by 1. I like that. That's quite nice. Clone Wars Chewie is still not a great unit, but whatever. Yoda and Chewie. Whenever Yoda and Chewie gain Foresight, they also gain 20% turn meter and protection up 20% for 2 turns. That's nice. He does pass Foresight with that first special. And of course, we've got cooldown reductions, I believe. Yeah, over on Clone Wars Chewbacca, whenever he loses Taunt. Whenever a non-tank Wookiee ally is critically hit, Wookiee tanks Taunt for 1 turn. And whenever a Wookiee taunts, the weakest ally gains 2 stacks of Bulwark for 1 turn. And that reduces incoming damage, I think, by 10 or 15% per stack of Bulwark, something like that. So overall, maybe there's some fun to be had with that, but I'm not super stoked about that team comp. I don't think that it's a particularly interesting faction, Wookiees. But hey, sue me if I'm wrong. I want to know your thoughts though, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think about these new FDCs? How do you think about having 7 and all of them are just new marquees? I'm not really down with that. I much prefer it. I don't mind us having 1 or 2. You know, like if there was one for Maul, if there was one for Vader, and then the rest were, you know, more like what you get with the Wampacron or the Sidious Cron or something like that. That would be more entertaining just for me personally. But yeah, what are your thoughts? Which datacrons are you going to go for? Because some of these are worth it just for the stat boost, to be honest. Alright, make sure you give the video a like before you disappear, guys. If you're not subscribed already, please do your boy Scribble a favor. Hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you all in the very next video. Peace out, and may the Force be with you.